We're diving into our number ones now, however. I'll start with mine, and it's one that nobody I talked to has heard of. It was the first movie I saw in 2021. First and the best. It didn't get better than Gabriella Cowperthwaite's Our Friend. If you think you've heard of Gabriella Cowperthwaite, she directed Blackfish. If you think you've heard of her, this is a movie adapted from an Esquire article written by Matthew Teague. This stars Casey Affleck, Jason Segel, and Dakota Johnson. And for the wealth of names in this thing, I can't believe it doesn't get more recognition than it does. I don't know if it's just because it went out very quietly on video on demand. I don't know if it's because it premiered at a festival back in 2019 and didn't get distributed and released till the beginning of 2021. I don't know what the hell the deal was, but this movie needed better PR because this is astoundingly great. And when I tell you the plot, you're going to think it's overly sentimental and you're going to think it's going to be cheesy. The plot of the movie revolves around these three characters. Casey Affleck and Dakota Johnson are married, and Jason Segel is a longtime friend of Dakota Johnson's character. And it is based on the true story of Matthew Teague and his wife, Nicole. Nicole gets diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And the movie takes over the span of 13 years. It revolves around her cancer diagnosis, how it worsens, and how essentially the dynamic between these three evolves, changes, comes to a head at certain points in the movie. Because Jason Segel doesn't have a girlfriend or a wife of his own, no kids. He's over at their house taking care of the kids, helping Casey Affleck's Matt at the hospital, going to the different appointments and stuff like that, watching the kids, caring for him, and so on and so forth. There's a lot about this movie that this movie does right. And this movie could have been another like piece of just dramatic, sentimental pablum, but it isn't. The thing that I continue to remember about this movie, whenever I think about it, whenever I talk about it, is the fact that in the movie's saddest moments, in the saddest moments of this movie, when you could really get the orchestration turned up to 11 and really eject tears, there is often no music. It is just dialogue, or it lets the cries and the sniffles and the sobs of the characters be heard uninterrupted. And that's what gets you. This movie is so profoundly well written that it does not need any sort of ancillary aesthetic manipulation to remind you that you should feel sad at any given time. On top of the fact that it is just career performances from everybody involved here. Casey Affleck, I still think, is one of the best actors working today. On top of that, you have Brad Inglesby, who writes a really good script that fleshes out all these characters. Brad Inglesby, too, he was the co-writer on Out of the Furnace as well, another Casey Affleck, Christian Bale movie. And the movie jumps around in timeline, too, because it goes back to when Jason Segel and Dakota Johnson first met. And it goes back to that. It goes back to the marriage between Matt and Nicole. And then it goes back to the present. It jumps around so much, it should be a hell of a lot more confusing than it actually is. But it's balanced so delicately. The emotional sentiment is handled with such grace. And it reminds me a lot of Manchester by the Sea. It reminds me a lot of that movie in the regard that it's a very sad movie, but it lets those sad moments breathe and isn't afraid to go there. It is available to watch on Amazon Prime. You can watch it on there, and you can rent it in a handful of different outlets if you don't have Amazon Prime. It's just a spectacularly, really well-made movie. And for what it's worth, Jake Owen, country singer Jake Owen, makes his acting debut in this, and he's very good. He wrote the 2013 banger. I think it was earlier. It was 2011, I think. The 2011 banger Barefoot Blue Jean Night, if you remember that song. He's good in this thing. He's pretty damn good. He's got a very nice kind of almost Paul Walker-ish screen presence here. Our friend Gabriella Cowperthwaite, the sleeper movie of the year. Excellent movie. I knew it was going to be a top 3, maybe top 5 at the beginning of the year. It started number 1. It was the first thing I watched in 2021. It ends the year at number 1, Our Friend.
Do you want to go through your 10 through 6 real quick?
I'll do that at the end. Dom, you go.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, dude. So my number 1 is going to be proud and leading the charge here is West Side Story 2021, starring Steven Spielberg. You know, that's Spielberg doing the dances in the gym moment. No, directed by Steven Spielberg. Yeah, dude, there aren't a lot of stories that reach the level of inspiration that decries the term inspiration, and West Side Story is one of them. Both its story, its timely story, ever eternal story, and its book, its songs, gorgeous songs, and the fact that 1961's West Side Story is one of my favorite musicals of all time, movie musicals, and the fact that the 2021 version beats the 61 version every other day because they're competing with each other in my mind, right? Back and forth. That is an accomplishment, for me to be able to think in that way. A movie that I grew up with. There's a nostalgia factor for me too. But you know what? The way Spielberg approached this movie, Steve said it best. You feel like he's been directing musicals his whole goddamn life, and this is his first. And of course, it's Spielberg. He's no stranger to movies, but it's still goddamn impressive to me that he was able to do that. Meta for a bit. How this movie was able to honor the 61 movie with the inclusion of Rita Moreno, transforming a role that was, C-list in terms of the whole cast list, the characters' roles there, but bringing it to the forefront, giving it extra dimension by making her be the halfway point between the two rival gangs is incredible. In many ways, it honored the past better than Spider-Man did. It's actually really cool how, weirdly enough, those two movies hit like similar emotional beats for me. Again, maybe the nostalgia of the 61 West Side Story, but dude, the color, the choreography, the deeper look into the social issues without being too ham-fisted. Another great moment in that regard is the character of Anybody's, who in the 61 West Side Story was a tomboy, but in this movie, still very much a tomboy. But there's an extra line there, a very subtle line where she yells out, "I ain't no boy," something like that. It's like, oh, okay. That's probably what that character was really suffering through, a potential trans issue there. And that's just a microcosm of how this new take on the old standard really is transformative. I might even be so bold as to say this may be the greatest movie remake of all time, certainly in my book, and I probably in contention. I need to see a full list of that, but it's goddamn good. And the fact that so much of this I think two members of this cast, Rachel Ziegler as Maria and Ariana DeBose as Anita, dude, goddamn, if Ariana DeBose wins Best Supporting Actress for the same exact role that Rita Moreno did in the movie that she shared the screen with Rita Moreno, is that's a story for all time. So yeah, dude, strong number one for me here.
My number one of 2021 is F9. Now the saga here, I'm kidding. It's a Quiet Place Part 2. Oh my god, hold on, I'm getting a bunch of messengers. I thought I muted these notifications. A Quiet Place Part 2 to me was everything I wanted a sequel to be to this, because when I heard they were making a sequel to A Quiet Place, I said to myself, why? What is even the point? The first one ended in a perfect spot. What's the point of even continuing it? And John Krasinski said, I'll show you why it's the point to continue it, because I have more to do. And he kept it short. I mean, the movie's only an hour and 37 minutes, and it is a ride for an hour and 37 minutes. I had a blast being in a theater to watch this, because the sound in this movie was incredible. Every sound they make, you're already clenching your chair. You're like, shit, how are they going to get out of this one next? There's amazing performances from Emily Blunt. The two children, especially, Millicent Simmons and Noah Jupe, do a great job in this movie as well. And of course, Cillian Murphy, who I thought was great in this movie as basically, the character that kind of replaced John Krasinski's role in the first one. They have a great opening sequence of showing you the, day zero of this whole event with these monsters. And finally, I mean, like, the reason why I loved it so much is because I'm really hoping this third one's going to be good. And with having the director of Pig, which I still have not seen Pig, but I mean, just hearing everybody talk about that movie, I think he is a perfect choice for that film. Um, I, I I grew up loving the Alien movies. I grew up loving like those kind of horror films with a creature and following characters throughout a saga of films. I mean, at least Aliens, not 3 or 4, and it just felt good to finally get a monster flick that's like that again, where you're following a group of characters trying to survive these horrific events. And it's kept minimal, the action's very close to the characters and everything. It's not trying to be big budget or anything. It's very creative filmmaking here with an action premise, with a creative premise of keeping silent, especially that first film too, which there's not that much dialogue in it. While this second one though does have more dialogue, it does still feel like a Quiet Place movie at its heart. And I think that was the biggest, probably the best, I forget what I'm going to say here, but that was the best impression, there we go, that this movie gave me, is that while this movie did have talking now and everything, it still felt like a true sequel to that original one. I had a blast watching this movie, and I can't wait to see what they do with part 3. It is by far my favorite film I saw this year, and I look forward to watching it every time. I've seen it already 3 times on Paramount Plus, once in the theater, twice on Paramount Plus, I should say. And I had just a blast watching it.
Good choice, man. Yeah, and I'm stoked that Michael Sarnowski's home in the 3rd movie. This was another movie that was just a really good theater experience. I'm glad they did not wait or I'm glad they did not, get impatient and drop this on video on demand, because these movies, if you get a nice, respectful audience, if you're lucky, which 2 for 2 on these movies in my experiences. I know, Joe, you beg to differ with you, but I've had really good luck with the theater experiences in these movies. This is the movie they should just refuse to sell popcorn to people who are going to see this thing, anything. It is massive. What the theater experience does for these movies, and just making these movies so damn unnerving and frightening. I can't wait. I really cannot wait for the 3rd movie, because what I'm thinking I might even do for the 3rd movie is watch the first 2 movies on Thursday afternoon and then go Thursday night and see the 3rd movie.
That's a great idea.
I'm going to doing that. I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to try to get home early and watch both of them, and then go to the theater a half hour, hopefully finish about maybe a half hour, 40 minutes before it's time to go.
Dude, and then the way the movie starts is it'll be perfect if that's how 3 starts too, where it's literally maybe 5 minutes after the events of the first movie.